Okay, so yeah, thanks for having me, Team AlphaBot, and thanks for everyone like who has joined in, tuned in. So, so over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll talk about my journey in starting and running Black Coffee Robotics, and I guess more of my journey into robotics at large. So, but before I get to that, I want to tell you quickly, what I do or what our team at Black Coffee Robotics does. So, I mean, this meme presents it well. So I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. Uh, but I'll find you and I'll make your robots autonomous. So, as a company, we develop software for robots. And if I give you a simple analogy, it's like we program the brain of the robots. So, robots have actuators, so many things, sensors. We develop the logic, we program them, we make them intelligent. And we do it for robots of all shapes and sizes. I'll get to that in the later half of my presentation. Right. And I'm obviously an engineer, and yeah, so is the rest of my team. So let me take you like a little far back. I won't take too much time with it. To how it started. I was actually watching some of the earlier talks. I mean, some of your earlier guests as they were coming along, and even with my peers, I've seen that most people enter robotics at an early age. People are fascinated by machines, taking out motors, playing with circuits, and these days even programming. So my starting was very different. In fact, I didn't get into robotics up until very late. So, but what I did start with was it's a that thing from Three Idiots, excellence ka picha karo, success झक के पीछे आएगी. I didn't know all these things. I mean, Three Idiots came along like very late, but I was really involved into learning as a small child. So I would, you know, take atlas, start looking at geography, where the countries are, what are the capitals, look at where the planets are. Anything that I could really find my hands on, I would just try to, find out more and more. This was, way back, like when I was maybe in early school. Uh, and over time, I got into a lot of things. And as I was around my middle school, maybe sixth, seventh, eighth, around that time, I actually we got a desktop at home. So what you see in the like, I don't know how young the audience here is, but I'm sure like they can recognize that it's a computer, right? So and it was fun. I mean, like most kids, I used to play games a lot, but I also tried a lot of different things. So one of the first things I did was they were teaching HTML in school. So I thought I'll make a website. Uh, and I kind of created a small website from, seven wonders of the world. So it was there was also a search form. It's pretty cool. I mean, I felt really good about it. And then I thought, like let me like check out what programming is really. I don't know what I called it back then, but let's say like what making software looks like. And I spoke to some friends of friends. No one was really programming, at least around me when I was 12, which is what 2005 or something. Uh, but there was dial-up internet, so you could still search things. So I found out that okay, there is something called C, like the language, and I was doing HTML, and that HTML is not really programming. So that was disheartening, really slightly, because I thought I had done something and thought, okay, I'll do C now. Uh, I mean, who will teach me though? I mean, no one knew really. So I tried to follow something. There's this W3 schools today for, and there was something for C. I can't remember the name of the website. So I downloaded this, Turbo C software. I thought I'll for Windows, and I thought I'll get started. I followed a tutorial. I wasn't understanding anything at all. Uh, and I'm talking to you about programming here because I think it did affect some of my decisions later on. Uh, there were syntax errors. You don't know where to put the semicolon, but I did. Like I just powered through it, and in the end, all I saw was like there's an hello world on the screen. And I was like, I mean, seriously, is this what I did all this for? I mean, I know how to write hello world. So is this really any good? And my experience wasn't good at all. I was just copying things over, trying to get the semicolon right. I had no clue what I was doing. And I thought it's really, it's a boring thing. So I'll just not do it. So that was kind of my mixed experience with programming. HTML, which is not really programming, that's what I was told. So anyway, time went on. I'm from Kota, by the way, so JE did come naturally to me in some senses, and I was always interested in sciences, mathematics, even as a student. So it wasn't something forced upon me. It just, I mean, it was kind of had to happen. I had to pursue engineering. I guess that much was clear to me. Uh, I wanted to be a scientist, I guess. So you have to take up engineering for it. That's what I knew. So and there was although it changed. I mean, compared to my early childhood to my 11, 12, JEE years, it's just that I wasn't learning so much. Like, what I started with learning things, and over the first year, maybe the 11th grade or something, I was more into getting results, because that's what it is about at the end of the day. Like, get a rank, get selected, clear the exam, just get the answer right. You don't have to necessarily know things. It didn't really sit well with me, so I kind of struggled a little, like towards the first half of my studies. But then I realized that I'll just try to give it shape. I'll still try to, I mean, learn, I guess, and still do well at exams. I mean, it's not like an idealistic choice that I don't care about exams. So it was a mixed bag, and while I was studying it, I was really involved. I think like anyone who has studied physics, right, 11, 12, they would know that it's mostly mechanics. You know, I mean, advanced mechanics, some calculus. I was really enjoying all of this. That's why I put up this, photo of Irodov here. So I don't think people watching this would really like it, but I didn't mind the book at all. So it was because I was getting to apply the things that I was learning. So you learn calculus and then you apply it in physics. So all in all, it was a mixed bundle. Uh, okay, so what next? I mean, you have to like you if you do well in JEE, you get to go to an IIT, and so it turns out I went to IIT Kanpur and I pursued mechanical engineering there. So by the way, up until this point, I had really no inclination. I would not say like I wasn't against it either, but I didn't know robotics really, to be honest, even at by now. And even after I entered college, I wasn't sure if I mean there was robotics clubs and that was the gateway to robotics for people, and I didn't join it. Okay, it did again. It didn't work for me. I just didn't get the idea, or that was the perception that how can I build a robot in 2 hours? I mean, maybe it's just about connecting random wires together. Not random. I mean, of course, there's science behind it, but it's like someone telling me what wires to connect, and write a code, a small code, and it will just work. And I didn't think I'm getting all of this really in 2 hours. So I didn't really join a robotics club even after entering college. Uh, and this is one thing it's like quite dissimilar from every all of my peers in robotics. Like everyone had some robotics experience at least after they entered college. Uh, so I was trying to see, what is it that I like doing. Now it turns out I started enjoying programming now. So they were teaching a course. I got interested into it. I did some programming. I would not say I was like an ace programmer or anything. Uh, but I was studying mechanical engineering, and like honestly, I didn't like most of what I was studying. I was studying thermodynamics, heat mass transfer, fluid mechanics, manufacturing. I was lost really. I mean, so I was confused that okay, I'm kind of interested in programming, but I'm studying mechanical engineering, which I don't really like. I mean, I didn't dislike it; was still interesting, but I didn't see myself doing it forever. So that much was clear, like for most of the courses. Uh, and that's when I kind of lost sight of what I was really doing in life. I mean, when I started way back, it was like, I'll be a scientist, I'll do this, that. Then you clear JEE, you get into college, and like, there's a chance that people get lost sometimes, not knowing what they want to do. And I was in the same position. So I went for an internship at Whirlpool. It was, I'm in Pune currently, and coincidentally, Whirlpool was also in Pune then. Uh, so it was, I would not say, I mean, the people were supportive. Like, I had good bunch of people around me, but again, I didn't think that this is something I want to do for life. So what you see on the right side here, it's like some experiment I was conducting. I was trying to do some force analysis for the drawers, improve user experience, getting some plots, writing some code, some MATLAB code, by the way. So once I returned from the internship, I was actually more clear on, let's say, what I didn't want to do. Okay, I knew that what I just did is not something I want to do forever. Uh, and by the time at the time I had reached the end of my third year, I was average academically. I wasn't really into strongly into anything. So I just thought the best thing for me is, get myself more time. So, like, I mean, my academics were well enough to get me a dual degree program. So I basically converted my program from a 4 year program to a 5 year program. So I just because I wanted more time, I wasn't really ready to, sit for placements, not knowing what I want to do, not knowing anything. So I just thought I need more time. So I changed my program to dual degree. Uh, so yeah, all this while I was just just there really honestly not doing a lot, and that's when I kind of got my calling. So I just thought I like programming. I'm in mechanical engineering, so like it doesn't matter what stereotypical programming is, like it's competitive programming, data structure, whatever. I don't know, I don't really care. I just thought it's a tool really for me to implement my ideas. And in fourth year, what we also had was a lot of electives. So I got to pick the courses that I really wanted to study. And I kind of unleashed in that respect. I basically, found out all the courses I wanted to do. So I took up courses in introductory robotics, neural networks, advanced optimization, advanced robotics, a lot of mathematical modeling. I took up courses online, Coursera. I think machine learning was the first course they listed on Coursera, and it was kind of new at the time. At least that's what I thought. I mean, it was a new discovery for me then. So this N2NG course was quite popular. So I basically, started doing everything I could. I was trying to make up, lost miles. So, and by the way, to this date, I mean, up until my fourth year, I'd mainly written codes in MATLAB and some C programming because they teach everyone C in the first year. So what was really interesting is I took up a project and I decided to, make my first robot. So I'll play a small video, and this was the first robot I made. So so what's really happening here is I made all of this, like it's in Python. I use Pygame library to visualize all of this. So I came across a paper which was called something on evolutionary robotics. So the idea is this robot is walking around in this, random space, not really doing much. The goal is just to survive. It's to not die, to travel as much distance as it can, and stay there for as long as it can. And the thing is, I didn't write any rule for it to do it. So it was really a neural network. It read all the sensors. So there were, like, I don't know if you can see, there are small sensors on the robot, and there are two wheels, and the neural network connects these two. And basically, I did some optimization to figure out the weights for that network, and the thing moves. So so this was great for me. I was thinking, okay, like I can write Python code, I can read papers, I can apply them. So it did seem that I could be a scientist after all. So and then I started pursuing my work started on my master's thesis. So in masters, you have to come up with your own topic, like what are you going to work on. So some of it is like you have some things to choose, some things you don't get to choose, by the way. So it's not like fully under your control. So I was also interested in biology somewhat. So I thought, maybe something around prosthetics or exoskeletons could be like a nice way to bridge things. Uh, but that's where my fear of hardware came into play. What I realized was, like, up until this point, I hadn't really worked on hardware at all. And honestly, the hardware in labs, it's not state of the art either. It's like you have to order parts, they take delays, you have to get something to fabricate, they'll fabricate it wrong. So, and I just thought I also have to finish my thesis timely. So I kind of avoided the hardware business altogether. So I was like, if I start doing that, I won't be actually able to pursue, solve critical problems in the field that I want to. And I did enjoy, modeling things, making simulations, doing studies on them, reading papers, applying them. I just thought if I got into hardware, like I won't be able to get enough time to do the other things. So I kind of directed my thesis to be on walking robots, and I ended up doing a lot of this. So this was probably my first major work in life. I guess I was working for 10, 12 hours a day for consistently 6 to 8 months at least, just to get the thing going. Uh, so let me just show you something. So this is really something from my thesis. Let me zoom it. Yeah. So what you really see here, it's just a robot, right? There's a start, there's a goal, it's reaching towards that goal, it's avoiding these ditches and obstacles. But there's a lot that has gone into it. So how, I mean, like, I'll just take like a side, like a route of 1 minute just to talk about walking robots for people who may be interested. It's like it's quite difficult to maintain balance for walking robots. Mobile robots, the wheel robots, the problem is you just have to find the right path, you have to localize, you have to move, but you at least don't have to worry about having a balance. Here you have to generate trajectories, you have to control them, you have to plan these footsteps that you see here, and then you have to execute it. So there's a lot that goes into it. uh, so I used a bunch of different technologies. I used some joint trajectory generation, optimized it using genetic algorithms, and then to do it real time, I switched to neural networks. I did a lot of step planning using A star search, and the goal was to do an energy minimum motion from start to goal while avoiding obstacles and ditches. So that was the simple problem statement. Let me just try zooming that. Okay, right. So it was amazing. I mean, my experience was amazing. There was a lot of work, and by now I was kind of, very strongly inclining towards pursuing a PhD. Because I didn't fit well in the internship, as I said. I wasn't really. This was like that much into mechanical core, mechanical engineering. So this is where I found my calling. But here's the thing: if you don't have an amazing grade point, and if you don't have papers to show for, you won't get into a PhD. So I was aware of that fact even before I applied, but I still thought I'll get the process started. Uh, and I did give my GRE TOEFL, so I did well there. But ultimately, I applied only to one university because I knew I'm not going to get accepted, but I still just wanted to take that chance. Uh, so what then? So what do you do? Like, I was kind of sure that I want to do a PhD. I hadn't been accepted yet. So it seemed like a natural thing to, give research more time. So I started applying for some research positions, maybe 1 year position, 6 months, anything I could get really. I was even open to working 2 years. So because at this point, like money wasn't really on my mind. I was just looking for, something to pursue. So fortunately, I got accepted to. One second, let's see. This is like just some details from my thesis. You can see the step plans, the just like some behind the scenes, let's say. So yeah, fortunately, I got accepted to the University of Heidelberg, right? So it's in Germany, and the work was again on walking robots. So because I basically finished a chapter at IIT Kanpur on walking robots, I thought, let's just continue it there. And you, of course, you are more likely to accept it to fields that you've already worked in. So that also plays into it. Uh, okay, so I reached there. I was all excited. By the way, 5 years in college is a long time. So I was happy to move out, to be honest, at that point. So I went into Heidelberg. I was excited. I'm in Europe, so this is where like I'll do research. It'll be like a fancy lab, a lot of work. So I reached there and I had a reality check. And so what was really embarrassing for me, one of my first weeks was there was a library we were trying to use, and I had never used build systems before. I mean, it's like I graduated college and I'm in robotics, and I didn't even use CMake. I didn't know how to do make file, CMake list. How do you do that? So that was a curve, and I kind of took it strongly. And I doubled down on my work because I did want to naturally, like, you all want to feel good about the work you do, and you want to be really good at what you do. So I put in extra hours and catching up with the work of that lab, and I realized that I could pick up these concepts rather fast. So I worked on optimal control for walking pattern generations. I was doing still pursuing online courses in my free time, and I was trying to cover up, some my lacunas in hardware. So I ordered an Arduino, ARPI, breadboard. I was connecting things, just trying to do something really. And I realized, these are the things that are best done when you're in a group. So that was a flashback to my first year. Maybe had I took more part then, it would be much easier now. But regardless, I was working. But over the course of my, research, I just realized that, I mean, okay, I'm working on it. I enjoy solving problems. It's all mathematical simulation, great. But I just felt that I was not really making the impact that I would have liked to make. Uh, because research, see, idealistically, it's about, pursuing your ideas and, exploring the frontiers of whatever field you're in. But practically, it's also about publishing papers. That's what ultimately look good on your resume, and that's what you have to do. Again, it's like that's the way it is. So, and I was also thinking, okay, working on biped robots, I didn't see them really coming out in the world like within, let's say, next 10 years. Uh, so I just so I was having all these thoughts really. Like this was my second year into research, like after my thesis. So regardless, I still applied for PhD. I mean, that was what it was about, and I was accepted as well. And this is around March, April. So you're due for admission in August or September, whatever. Uh, and then this inclination to this question mark over research was getting stronger and stronger in my mind the more time I spent working on it. And then I thought I probably should not sign up for another academic commitment of 4 to 5 years if I'm not fully sold on it. So I just decided not to join the university that I was accepted in. So instead, I thought I'll maybe work in industry. I want to work more in the things as they are now, like here and now. So I want to build something, I want to deploy something, I want to see how problems in the real world work, like what is the world outside of a lab. So that pursuit kind of got me back to India. So I joined a Gurgaon based company, High Tech Robotics. So I thought, okay, now also, real world problems. So, and yeah, thanks for them for having me. Thanks to my colleagues there. I got to learn a lot. And another thing, so, there are always shocks. So I went there and I, like, one of the first few days, right? I saw everyone, using ROS, and I would see terminals, people will, echo topics, and then they'll show our ways. And I was like, wow, I've never seen this thing before. And it all seems so fancy. It was like the Matrix, right? You can just see numbers and you don't know what's happening. So, but I was comfortable programming, right? So it didn't take me that long to pick up ROS. Uh, and that was a revelation because up until now, again, I didn't know how robots in the real world work. I mean, I knew how to optimize trajectories, how neural networks work, how genetic algorithms work, how do you write code, how do you use optimization libraries, but I didn't know how a real robot works. So that kind of gave me a good exposure to that. Uh, and the hardware struggles continued. This time they were for real. It wasn't just for, like, because I didn't know enough. So I'll just show you something that I was working on in that company. Let me just mute it. Okay. So this was a project I worked on at the time. It's an, as you can see, it's an autonomous forklift, right? So this is really, one hell of a project, to be honest. You'll see it has four actuators and blades, two in the wheels, and there was a lot of hardware tapping. There are some encoders mounted. There is a lidar. There's a camera, and it weighs in tons. I mean, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 tons. So it's a dangerous machine too. So I was working on it. I it was a big learning for me, right? So I was interfacing with all the actuators. It was all on ROS. So there was a lot of technology involved. I was also working with a different stack. So the company had their own stack that I was trying to work with. So there were challenges, but it was also interesting. So that's a friend, like a colleague of mine from there. So it's just an example. I worked on several things like these at the time. So that was a big experience. That was an amazing learning, really. So it there's a camera, so it recognizes if the plane is, if it's positioned correctly, and then it moves the blade. So there's a whole lot of things happening here. Okay, so this was great. And over the next year, so I was in high tech for like close to 2 years. So first half was working on forklift and learning a lot of things, and second half I was like one of the core developers of the navigation stack that we deployed like the subsequent years. So while I was there, we deployed and we exported first AMR from India outside country. So it was basically you pack something up, someone unpacked it in Africa and South Africa, and then they just started moving. So that was an amazing feeling. That was like a feeling of completion, that okay, you've taken an idea, you've just taken things from bare metal and then just converted it into a product. So that was an amazing feeling. Another great thing that happened at High Tech Robotics was I met my co-founder there. So Zubin, who's actually on this call, by the way. Uh, so we joined around the same time, and so I mean, naturally, so we were working together. There was a good friendship, and I mean, after 2 years, I realized that okay, I've seen the product cycle, I've gained hardware experience. I mean, what else can we do, really? So we thought, let's go out there, let's try to apply what we have learned. I mean, not just in mobile robots, but like just what we have learned in technology, robotics at large, and take it to the real life, apply it to more industries. So that's kind of how we started, and we get to Black Coffee Robotics. So this is something I go back to again, like what I had in the first slide. So I have a very specific set of skills, right? So I can make autonomous robots. And when I say I speak for Black Coffee Robotics at large. So we started, and so it was a big move really, to an extent, because when you are in a job, you get regular salary every month, and it is comforting. So it's a step to go out of your comfort zone. Uh, but personally, when I look back, I mean, that's what I have done at several opportunities, and that's the only way I know like how to do things really, because can't be staying at one place for too long. So we had to do that. It was difficult at first. Uh, there was blood literally, while soldering, while doing all this screws. Like there was so much thing, and we would go around, in sunny afternoons in Hyderabad, May, June. It was peak heat. We will try to meet a lot of people, try to get some work. And so there were periods, where it was a little, I don't know, maybe slightly frustrating that, we are working all day and nothing is happening. But it was also exciting that we are working so much. So that also brings about a positive energy. So all these things were happening. So we were still trying to look for clients for services, but you can't look for clients 24/7, right? And we are engineers, we like to build things. So we built a lot of things on the way. So this was one of the slightly product ideas that we had, that this is something that could work. So we were building a learning platform for robotics. So by the way, we are not web developers, but we just picked all these things up, basic things up, Bootstrap, Flask, React, all these frameworks. So we kind of got hang of them. So this was something we tried to build at the time, that there'll be a platform wherein there'll be questions. Let me pause for a second here. So how I learned robotics in college was, a lot of it was through coursework. Okay, and the coursework involved solving equations, like an exam in paper format, like paper pen, like there'll be equations. There would be some simulation, MATLAB type simulation, but ROS was not part of coursework at all. And my experience in industry had showed me that everything is working around ROS. So we thought that, maybe we should try to bridge this gap, try to make students cognizant of these technologies right as they are studying, so that they don't have to do something extra. I mean, they could still do something extra as they should, but they should at least be trained to have a career in robotics and not just solving some forward or inverse kinematics and getting out of college and not being in a position to solve any real world problem. So that was a gap we were trying to bridge. So we tried to build this, online platform which we tried to contact universities and have them purchase it so that the students can learn better. So the idea was that whatever you are studying, there'll be like a practical for it, and this is an online practical. This is also web based, so you can work from anywhere. You don't need a laptop. So we have put in thought into all these things, right? And we got some visualizations on the web. Like there were some ROS libraries that we used. So, and we try to point to like relevant documentation so that it would really be, at least that's what we thought, that it would be a great experience for students. Well, but it turns out that's not how universities work. Maybe there was something lacking in how we were pitching it, whatever the case be. Ultimately, we didn't get a lot of positive response. Okay. So we built all these things, but somehow it didn't work out because universities have this bureaucracy, like maybe the director will approve it or the senate will approve it, and private universities have different thing. And then the question is like, where's the economics in it? That's something we, I mean, when you're, yeah, I mean, when you're just starting and you're an engineer, you want to build things without really scrutinizing, all these practical things, that like if you make, will they buy it, right? And so we did feel a lot of value for students, but ultimately we didn't think a lot of economic values. Like, I mean, someone has to buy it really for us to make it, right? So, so unfortunately, it didn't work out. I mean, we are happy that we made it, but it didn't really work out. So, but we were not going to stop building, right? So we were doing these services. We were finding people for services, but we, kept on building. So another thing we thought was, let's make a mobile robot. So we, I mean, I think most of people here would know what turtlebot is, right? It's a miniature robot, good for learning ROS, applying, concepts like localization, planning, all these things. So we thought, can we make it something like, we'll make it in India, we'll try to sell it for cheaper, we'll try to have all those features, and we are in India, so we can also support it better. So because a lot of times the problem with robots is there is no support if something goes wrong. So we try to address these things. We built a robot from scratch. So like what you see here in this small image, it's, so we did the, it was really the two of us at the time, Zubin and myself. So we did the mechanical designing, fabrication. Finally, I overcame the hardware struggles and I actually dived into hardware. So I did the CAD design. I was doing the Arduino programming. We did the PCB designing. We assembled everything. There were several iterations. So this was a, it's a builder's dream really, right? You're getting to build things that you wanted to. So the experience was great. The reception was mixed, I would say. So we were able to make it, and we went to, this video is from IIT Ropar, by the way. So we went to IIT Ropar to present it to some students there. We made small applications. You see, there's a QR tag that they are trying to follow. So we wrote like most of the boilerplate. They had to just fill in some equations, and good for them. So we thought it's a great learning, and the students are smiling. So I guess they're happy. Right? So so it went well, but again, like where we did struggle is it's the same university setup. Like there'll be like there was like a lot of maintenance required. There are a lot of clearances that if the budget is more than this, they have to seek this XYZ approval. And again, what we didn't want to do was we didn't want to get stifled into the sales and maintenance cycle. So so we built it. It was 90% complete, I would say, and it still is 90% complete. We have these still with us, and we use them as internal R&D platforms now. Uh, but we basically aborted the idea of selling it. Uh, just because again, like it's, I mean, the market fit really wasn't there. So, so these were a couple of experience that, I mean, if any one of you is looking to start up or does start up, should just keep these things in mind that, figure out your market first. Uh, but regardless, the experience was great and the robot is still useful. In fact, you may see it in a couple of weeks. I'll maybe in the next month we'll release something around these. So watch out for it. Okay. So all of this is happening. We are also trying to pursue clients for services, and here they come. In time well, but here they are now. So uh, where we are today, and what we have done over the last 18 months, let's say. So one of like our first clients was Unbox Robotics. So I mean, Shahid, like who's their CTO, we got in touch right around when they were just ideating. I mean, they had the idea, they had a lot of things figured out, but they didn't have a hardware, so they didn't have a team back then. So what they need was help, like bringing up the system really fast. So they started working them on a single robot system, uh, like this full software programming for a single robot system. Then we started scaling it to how can you move 15 robots together, right? But in no time, let's say within the next 10 months, we did something we didn't think we'll be able to do. We actually ended up running 100 plus robots together in a shared workspace at a really high speed. So, I mean, me and my team, we like there were inputs from Unbox as well, and so it was collaborative, but we did like bulk of the development. So we were able to run all these robots together, and that was a wow moment really, like for all of us, uh, because it was, yeah, probably the longest and the toughest project I've worked till date, running so many robots together. And we didn't just run them like, in a small script. They were actually deployed on real robots. Okay. So I can't share the videos just yet because I think that there's a confidentiality thing. So I'll just skip the videos. But I can show you some of the public videos that we did for, another one of our early partners, which is Get Peppermint. So the brand name is Get Peppermint. It's Obots Labs. Uh, Here the challenge was slightly different. It wasn't running too many robots together. It was trying to hit the market really soon with a good working system. See, products take time to mature. Like they take 2, 3, 4 years to mature, uh, maybe more, right? But you still have to have a good version running out, particularly if you're a startup. Because when you're a startup, you don't have 4 years of development time. I mean, you will run out in 1 year, so you better have something out soon. So this was a race against time, and the application was, I mean, cleaning obviously. Right? So it's a small video from our early days with working with Peppermint. So so that's how it was then, right? So we were just like doing some coverage planning. They had created an assembly and we were writing basic code on it. So ran very slow. In fact, I'm skipping it forward. It's that slow. So, but it was still a good proof of concept that we could see, okay, this thing is actually working, right? We were able to get their product to the market within like first 6 to 8 months. So these were some of our early stories, and as of now, we are working on a whole range of products around the world. We are working on outdoor lawnmowers. Like there's a big demand for lawnmowers in larger countries. Let's say places like Australia, United States. Uh, so one of our clients we are working with. We are even working on autonomous boats. So which is something I didn't think I'll end up doing, but we are doing that. We are also working on AMRs. So we have worked at like projects in UAE, Europe, US, Canada. So we have had clients internationally. So yeah, and it's a we have a small team, but it's a closely knit, amazing team, and that's what we do, right? So that's it from my side. So thanks for listening. So I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Yeah, Gaurav, that was wonderful, like sharing your journey. So, I mean, I think a lot of them have this feeling, right? They want to start something of their own. So, it was good to hear from you, and it was good to see that Unbox Robotics was there first, because it was my first job that I got
Yeah.
out of college. So that was the first offer
Oh
actually I
really?
got. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Shahid was
Oh, okay, okay.
one of my connections. So it was my first
Right.
offer, but I didn't join them, unfortunately. But it was my first offer that I got out of job. I mean, out of college. So it was good to hear that Unbox Robotics is doing good now. And I think they've
Yeah, yeah.
received some funding also recently, right?
Yeah, yeah, they've done a lot over the last 2 years. I mean, they've I think raised 2 rounds from what I remember.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
they're growing their team, and so they should be deploying soon if they haven't already.
I mean, great to hear that. But good. Like, if anyone has any questions, you can ask. Um, okay, I think there's some questions coming in the chat. Hey, I want to know how to make Arduino project industry ready.
Okay, so Hitesh, thanks for the question. Although I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer it, but I'll try to do my best. So I started Arduino pretty late. Okay, so I don't fully leverage it even today, and I think Arduino is not really used beyond a point in robotics industry at least. Like it's probably more of use in IoT, but once you reach like a product stage, people go for something more industrial or more industrial PLC. So, but the way if you want to like explore these possibilities, I think you can make a lot of projects. Try to find a way, interning at a company that works on logic controllers, right? I think that would be or an IoT company. I think they'll be able to take it from there.
To add to Gaurav here, so I have also worked with a couple of early stage robotic startups. So when they're in the early stage for prototyping and all that related things, they do use Arduino. So, but as like Gaurav said, like after a limit, they don't use Arduino, they use their own chips, or I mean, they get chips and they make their own customized things. So they don't go out to Arduino. But I've seen a couple of, like, I can't name the companies, but there are a couple of robotic startups that are using Arduino, but not for the complete robot, right? The complete robot they might be STM32, and they might be even they for Slam they might be having a Slam Tech board, or they might be having like Arduino to control some few things. So maybe Bluetooth communications, all that maybe they can do through Arduino. So that's something that I have experienced. So I just wanted to share. So if you have more questions, though I am
Right.
interested in software side of robotics, but is it really necessary for me to get started with hardware?
Uh, Not really, not to get started because I myself didn't start with hardware. I mean, I was working with software for most of the times. But if you want to work in robotics for long, you will have to understand hardware because and that's actually one thing I missed talking about, right? One of the exciting things about robotics is you get to be in the mix of a lot of technologies. So it's not just like abstract software. It's not like a web dev or like a pure software thing. So that's kind of the fun of it, and that's also the necessity of it. But if you are into maybe things like deep learning or computer vision, then yeah, you can like enter robotics from that side as well and be totally isolated from hardware. So I think that should answer Siddharth's question. uh, Pratmesh, do you mind me reading like some of these?
Yes, you can go
Yeah.
ahead.
So Ish is asking what to focus more on in robotics, electronics, software, hardware. I mean, there's no answer to it, Ish. Unfortunately, like there's no like one answer to it. All of these things are important if you are looking from, let's say, I don't know actually. Robotics is one of these things that all of these things are there. So you should, I would say, have a basic knowledge of all of these, but try to specialize in one of these. So, I mean, it's up to you. Like, take your pick. Whatever you like the most, do that. But it would be good for you to know a little bit of everything here.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree that like it's good to like know every part. The electronics. I am a mechanical engineer, but my specialization is in software. So it could be anything. Just try to experiment yourself with a lot of other things, right? You try a little bit of electronics, software, and hardware. see what you actually like doing. So, and just pursue what specialize in things that you do. We have okay. Do have questions.
So
Yes.
yeah,
Gaurav, would you
Tejas
like
is
to read it
asking.
out or should I?
Yeah, sure, I'll read them. No problem. So Tejas says how to prepare for robotics engineer jobs for a fresher with relevant internship. Because I'm assuming you have an internship, you are a fresher and you're looking for a career in robotics. So I mean, thankfully there are a lot of companies in robotics now. I think you really just have to convince them that that they give you a chance, because there are like a lot of applicants too. But there is genuinely like there is a lack of people ready to fill into industry. So I think what would help is for you to demonstrate your internship really well, be able to explain the things that you have worked on really well, try to do things on your own, because most people in robotics, I mean, our country doesn't have a robotics ecosystem. So if people are not really trained by an institute in robotics, it's all self-learning. So pursue that, demonstrate that you have a capability to learn by yourself, be able to explain your ideas, and I'm sure like one of these companies will be open to giving you a chance. So Krish says, I'm looking to launch a product to teach STEM and robotics. I'm mainly focused to be really cheap, so it's highly affordable materials. Awesome. This is a market for it in the future. So, Krish, if you saw like what I was presenting a while back, that's something that we try to do as well. Like we try to make a cheaper and an Indian version of like economically cheaper, financially cheaper, I mean, version of Turtlebot. Uh, I think there is a market for it because we still get some queries about it. It's just that we have went on to different pursuits. So but there is also competition, so you have to work out the economics. What price you're going to make it for, what will you sell it for, how will you provide maintenance, how are you better than your competitors. Just answer all these questions. I think there's a market, but just see what better can you do than things that are already there. uh, you mentioned about your interest in prosthetics and exoskeletons. Can you please tell us what kind that and what you're looking for to work in that field? What is your view on the rehabilitation and medical robotics? Okay, so that's a good question and something that I could have answered better a few years ago. So I was my interest in them was because they were at the intersection of biology and engineering. So what like one of the researchers that I was working at the time was you can read EMG, like the muscle signals, and EEG brain signals to actuate exoskeletons so that they move with your body, not like it's a force control problem, right? So your motion and the motion of exoskeleton should be in sync. So you try to read these signals before they manifest themselves in movement. So that part was interesting to me. On that field, I am not really working on that anymore. In fact, I never really worked on it. I just read about it at the time. It was one thing that I thought I would pursue, but I didn't. Uh, Rehab and medical robotics. Uh, Again, I have not done market research on this, but I think it's a very constructive use of robotics, and there will be a demand for it. But the problem that one could face in this is uh, like you have to get a lot of certification if you go into industries like rehab, medical, because for it to be used on patients, you have to have a lot of tests, trials. Your software and your hardware, they have to be very high grade. So that is one thing they need to work out, and it's a very high precision application, so it's going to be sensitive to hardware. So you probably should cover all these aspects if you are talking about surgical robotics. For rehab robotics, seen a few videos in fact recently, but I can't tell you. Like I'm sure that it will pick up like everything in robotics will, but I can't give a timeline for it, or like when it hits India big time. So those are things I can't answer. Working in good, small versus working big companies like AdWork, High Tech for freshers. Uh, it's up to you, and it's also up to them. Like you have to work really. Uh, like so, wherever you get the chance to work the most, and wherever you can get good guidance from your peers or your supervisors. So that would be the best way. Now I can't answer where you'll find that. Like you can find it in a big company or you can find it in a startup. So that's a call you have to make. Of ROS through micro ROS, that tortoise bought price around 15,000 is a lot of money. As ROS is about what it is. So Krish is asking about a ROS robot under 1,000 through micro ROS. Okay. Is there? That's a good idea. Although I think 1,000 is a stretch too far to be honest, because I mean, the beauty or the most impact of ROS is when you're interfacing multiple things, like a lidar or a camera. But soon as you start doing that, you are easily overshooting 7-8,000. So yeah, so I don't know, like so that's I can't see like how that would you would have something in under 1,000 for that. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that. So
I think for now that's it. Only we have so many questions. So I have one question.
yeah,
So when you hire, what do you see in a candidate? Like what are the skill sets that you look for a candidate when you hire?
right. Actually, we have evolved on this. Like when we started, right? My view was, we'll get someone who is good in ROS, who knows robotics, planning, SLAM, any one of these really. Uh, but over time, my view has been I also look for like the person more than just their skills. So we look for traits like do you have a strong work ethic? Do you have a track record of starting and finishing something? So because a lot of students they work on 10 projects and they work on like doing some work, they do something but they don't really know what they did. So I mean we look for a track record of completing something and how well you can explain your ideas. So even if you have made, let's say, a line follower robot, right? How well you can explain it? Like if I ask you questions like, what if I want to control its speed too and not just follow it? So you should be able to answer all these questions. Or I mean that was just too simple an example. But anything you work on, if we look for how involved you were in it and how well can you explain it to others. Uh, so those are like the essential personal skills, let's say, interpersonal skills. Beyond that, like the more you have worked, the better it is really. Like we don't look expect people to be like amazing programmers because in robotics, I mean not like so-called competitive programmers enter robotics, but you should be able to write C++, Python, understand these languages, or at least one of them, right? And yeah, code some ideas. Basically you should be able to program the ideas. So we also give some assignments and we try to do live assignments as well. We try to see how you think and how well can you do against a small timeline. So those are the kind of things we evaluate students on.
Yeah, great. So one more very common question that I get is like it would be good if you could answer because you have experience in it. How do you see research in India for robotics and research in Europe? Like a lot of questions that I receive is that should I like apply for some universities in India or like IISc or IITs, or should I go to Europe and or the US and do some research? So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. See, I mean, like there's no easy way, there's no way to mince words here. I mean, quality of research is better. Again, I don't speak in absolute terms, but like by and large, it's much better outside India than in India, and that holds true for robotics as well. So, if you're looking to gain exposure, looking to work at the edge of technology, a master's outside would mostly be better, right? Because going outside, will you really pursue research? Because master's course is not all that much about research. It's a lot of coursework. It's a lot of training to be, to pursue a job somewhere. So, but yeah, I mean, in general, like you look at research rankings, right? Universities outside India do better than the ones in India. So, if you have the choice and if you want to pursue research, I would say maybe get an RA experience here so that you can make your own judgment. Like you can get to maybe work for 6 months or 1 year. So that will one give you experience of how things work in India and if they work for you. And India is not a monolith, by the way. Different labs have strengths and weaknesses. Same goes for labs in the United States or in Europe. So it's not a monolith. But work somewhere in India, let's say for 6 months, 1 year. Be confident that you really like research, or if you like it, maybe you just don't like it in India, then you apply. It will also help your application, by the way, having a track record of like prior work.
Okay, great. I think that answers a lot of questions. So is there anyone else, any other questions, or else we can wrap up this session? Okay, so I believe that's it for today. Gaurav,
Absolutely.
thank you for taking your time and coming and talking to the community members. So I hope to like stay in touch, stay in Discord, so that we have a continuous conversation within robotics. And there are a lot of interesting people though in our in our community, so that we can bring up conversations related to robotics quite often. So thank you. Firstly, thank you for taking your time and coming to our for this weekend, for this session. I appreciate it. Over to you. I mean,
Yeah, Prathamesh, yeah, thanks for having me. Like, thanks to like Team AlphaBot for organizing these, having me on, giving me like a chance to speak to so many people at once. So it was great for me, and yeah, more power to you for the work that you're doing organizing these sessions. I know it takes a lot of time and management, so yeah, thumbs up to you too.
thank you, Gaurav. I think your co-founder is also here, right? Zubin,
Yeah,
right?
Zubin is also here. Yeah, he's on the call.
Thank you, Zubin. Thank you for Zubin. Would you like to talk something? Would you like to share something?
I mean, yeah, Gaurav has. Am I audible?
Oh, your
Yeah,
voice is feeble.
faintly.
Is this better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is better.
Yeah, I think Gaurav has pretty much covered like all of the things that we have been doing and the journey. My journey has been like quite similar to Gaurav's. So yeah, that pretty much summed up my journey too. And yeah, thanks you guys. Like thanks everyone for being here and listening to us. And yeah, we'll I'll also be around in Discord. I'll join the Discord. I think I'm in Discord. I haven't like hung around there much, but I'll start hanging around and we can interact there too if someone has any questions later.
Yeah, definitely. That will be helpful. Thank you, Zubin. Thank you, Gaurav. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you do.
Bye.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone who joined. Have a nice
Yes.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.